Well, greetings, everyone. It's me, LionHeart again. It is Friday night. It is time for another storytelling. Tonight will be that of Medusa. I've been aching to do a Greek mythology for a while, and I've told a couple of them over time in the podcast and all that, so I haven't touched upon this one yet. I'm pretty certain Medusa has been one that's been known for quite some time, even if you're not really familiar with Greek mythology that you might have heard her in like maybe pop culture stories and all that. We'll get to that later. But if you sit back and relax, I will get you started with this story. Medusa, whose name probably comes from the Greek word for guardian, was one of the three Gorgons, daughters of the sea gods Prois and Ceto, and the sisters of the Grey, Echina, and Laodon. All of Medusa's siblings were monsters by birth, even though that she was not. She had the misfortune of being turned into the most hideous of them all. One thing that's interesting to note is that while she was mortal, her sisters were immortal. From then on, similarly to Euryale and Cynthino, her other Gorgon sisters, Medusa was depicted with bronze hands, the wings of gold. Poets claim that she had great boar-like tongue lolling between her fake teeth, really snakes and trying to pierce the hair. At least that's what she'd be later on. But it wasn't always like that. Medusa, the only mortal among the Gorgon sisters, who also distinguished them from them by the fact that she alone was born of a beautiful face. Ovid especially praises the glory of her hair, most wonderful of all of her charms. The great sea god Poseidon seems to have shared his admiration. For once he couldn't resist the temptation and pregnant Medusa in the temple of Athena. Oh, hello, Lynn. Now, the stories kind of tell of how that Poseidon impregnated Medusa. Some say that she raped her. Some say that they just got it on. In either case, Athena stepped in and saw all that happened. Enraged, the virgin goddess transformed Medusa, enchanting her hair into a coil of serpents, turning the youngest Gorgon into the monster as described before. And this was an interesting fact. When I first researched Athena, I did not know of this story, this portion of it, that it was Athena that actually turned Medusa into her sisters. And what's interesting enough is that sometimes some people can tend to make a modern translation of the ancient Greek myths. I mean, a lot of mythologies are done based upon those times of old. But if we were to do like a modern spin of it, I'm pretty certain it'd be like those like your reality television shows. The cameraman would be in the temple of Athena. You'd be hearing that going off the distance, and here you see Athena walking in, going, "Oh, what is this? Poseidon? I know where you live in the waters." And then be like, "That's it! I cast you out, Medusa, and turn you into sisters!" And then you'd have Athena be sitting in her chair like, "I had no choice. She just followed my temple. I had my means." So, anyway, I thought to put that in an interesting spin to make you picture that in your head. You're welcome. So soon after this, trying to get rid of Perseus, Polycetes, the king of Sephiros, sent a great hero on a quest, which he believed must be his final one. "Fetch me the head of Medusa," commanded Polycetes. With the help of Athena and Hermes, and after compelling the Grassi for Medusa's whereabouts, Perseus finally reached the fabled land of the Gorgons, located either in the far west, beyond the outer ocean, or in the midst of it, on the rocky island of Sepridon. Medusa was a formidable foe, since her hideous appearance was able to render any onlooker into stone. In some variations of the myth, Medusa was born a monster like her sisters and described with serpents, vibrating tongues, gnashing her teeth, having wings, blazing claws, and enormous teeth. All the while, Medusa was asleep, and Perseus, using the reflection of Athena's bronze shield that was given as a guide, because of course you couldn't look directly at her because you'd be turned to stone, managed to cut her head off with the sickle. Strangely enough, this is not where Medusa's story ends, believe it or not. When Perseus severed her head, her two unborn children, Cryo and Pegasus, suddenly sprang from her neck. The Gorgons were woken by the noise and did their best to avenge the death of her sister, but they could neither see nor catch Perseus, for he was wearing Hades' helmet of darkness that granted invisibility, and Hermes' winged sandals that granted him flight. If you played a certain NES game, that should sound a little familiar. Now, it's unclear if Perseus took Pegasus with him on his following adventures or if he continued to utilize the winged sandals that Hermes had given him, but Pegasus' adventures with both the hero Perseus and Bellerophon are classic tales from Greek mythology, and I can always go on those later on if you ever like. So the Gorgons went back to the scheduled abode to mourn Medusa. Pindar, a great ancient Greek poet, says that upon hearing the gloomy lament, Athena was so touched that she modeled it after the mournful music of the double pipe, the altos. And I wish I could actually demonstrate that, but you guys hear that? Okay. Blessed Athena. Okay, what you're hearing right now is an example of the double pan flute. You know, that what Athena, and apparently Athena is deciding to play it now. Athena! Okay. Athena, dear, okay. I appreciate what you're doing. What? Just the morning. I know, I understand. Look. I'm doing a live cast right now. Look, after we're done, I will play along with you with my ocarina. That's great. By the way, I'm going to do it for 5 hours. Lovely. Where was I again? Oh, yeah, that she played on that. So, anyway, Perseus now flew, either by Pegasus or by the winged sandals, with Medusa's head safely bagged, ever potent with her stony gaze. Perseus, on his journey home, stopped at Ethiopia, where the king of King Cepheus and the queen Cassiopeia was being tormented by Poseidon's sea monster, Cetus. Poseidon's vengeance was being exacted on the kingdom for Cassiopeia's hubris claimed that her daughter, Andromeda, or she herself, was equal in beauty to the Nereids. Perseus slew the beast and won Andromeda's hand. Andromeda was already betrothed, though, which caused a contention to break out, resulting in Perseus using Medusa's head to turn her previous betrothed into stone. Once again, if this was like reality television, and it's unclear of how he does it, but most likely he goes into the bag and then just brings out the head, and when he can hear it turn into stone, brings it back in. Before his return to home to Zephyrus, Perseus met the Titan Atlas, who he turned to stone with Medusa's head after some quarrelsome words, thus creating the Atlas Mountains of North Africa. Because, of course, the legend with Atlas is that he held the whole world on his back. It was painful to him. So this was, technically speaking, doing a favor for him to turn him to stone. Because now he no longer has to worry about that pain. Also, during the journey home, Medusa had spilled some of the blood on the earth, which formed into the Libyan vipers that killed the Argonaut Muspelus. After he went back to Cyprus, however, while flying over Libya, drops of Medusa's blood fell on the ground and instantly turned to the snakes. It's because of that, to this day, Libya abounds with serpents. When Perseus soon arrived at Zephyrus, he used Medusa's head to turn Polysus and the victors of islanders into stones. This island is well known long for its numerous rocks. After this, Perseus gave Medusa's head to his benefactor Athena as a willful gift. The goddess set it on Zeus's Aegis. Now, in case you wonder what Aegis is, it's a shield, much like this one. Now, this one, of course, is the one that Athena gave me for the lion head. But that's the one, that shield that has Medusa's head on it came from. She also collected some of the remaining blood and gave most of it to Cephalus, who used the blood from Medusa's left side to take to people's lives, and the blood from her right side to raise people from the dead. The rest of Medusa's blood, a vial containing 2 drops, Athena gave to her adopted son, Erichthus. Euphrates says it's one of the drops as a cure-all, and the other one a deadly poison. Always the protector of heroes, Athena put aside in a bronze jar a lock of Medusa's hair for Hercules, who suddenly gave it to Zephyrus' daughter Europe to use to protect her hometown Tingia. Supposedly, her hair had the same power as her head, so that any exposure would cause a storm which chased away the foes. And so that's basically the major story of Medusa. Her start, her slaying, and her effects afterwards. Some interesting facts that I also had, when putting the story together. The Gorgon image appears in several spaces of art and architectural structures, by including the pediments of the Temple of Artemis. There are several archaeological examples of the Gorgon's face being used as breastplates and mosaics, and even bronze end pieces on the ship beams of the Roman period. Perhaps the most famous example of Medusa in art in antiquity was the Athena Parthenos statue from the Parthenon, which made by Palladius as described by Parnasius. The statue of Athena depicts a Gorgon's face on the goddess's breastplate. In Greek mythology, there's also Hera's description of Hercules' shield, which describes the events of Perseus and Medusa. Some interesting other facts. Many artists made also Medusa use of art, which includes Leonardo da Vinci made a painting of her using oil van canvas. Pompey's house of the Faun, Medusa was on the breastplate of Alexander the Great in the Alexander mosaic. The flag and emblem in Sicily also features her head. Greek poet Hesiod wrote that Medusa lived close to the Hellespont in the Western Ocean near Serapion. Herodotus is the historian and said her home was in Libya. 2 species of snake contain her name: the venomous pit viper Bothropus medusa, and the non-venomous snake called Artricus medusa. She's also been featured in movies, books, cartoons, and in even video games. Yeah, now I don't know how well you can see him, but that, of course, is Kid Icarus. Now, in the original game for the NES, he is to rescue the goddess Polytena, who has been imprisoned by Medusa. That Polytena, who was supposed to be a representation of Athena, had imprisoned earlier. And actually, for those who were here for the Facebook event, the picture of Medusa that I used on there was from the sequel, Kid Icarus Uprising. You also had seen her also in comic books and cartoons, but what's most notable in the cartoons is how she's defeated is by seeing her own reflection instead of being decapitated, of course, Saturday morning cartoons and all. There was an episode of Super Friends because, of course, since Wonder Woman is from a Grecian isle, there was an episode where the Super Friends had to take on Grecian challenges, and in Wonder Woman's case, she defeats Medusa by seeing her reflection, which is something because in the comic books, she slayed her like it was in the Greek mythology. And what was interesting, Wonder Woman even forcibly blinded herself so that she would never look at Medusa head on. And there is, of course, an episode of Captain and the Game Master, which, of course, Pitt is in, where he did the same thing Medusa, just made her see a reflection. So that is the story of Medusa. And I'm happy to have told that story, and I hope to tell more Greek mythology stories later on down the road. So I hope you see that, and I hope that the fact that no matter who you are, that if you ever doubt your looks, always remember that your beauty comes from within, and always improvise in the situation. So have a good night, everyone. Enjoy the story. Merry meet, merry parts, and merry meet again. Blessed be.